Mariners lose 4-1. They drop the final of the 3-game set with those Florida Marlins, and they fall to 33-34 on the season. Let's talk about how it happens. It's kind of a uneventful game, but an eventful game nonetheless. Luis Castillo, who really struggled with his command early on, throws a wild pitch that scores Jonathan Davis to make it 1-0 in the third. Jorge Soler homers in the sixth to make it 2-0. In the eighth inning, the Marlins get a couple more to make it 4-1. And in the ninth, the Mariners get one on a sacrifice fly by Eugenio Suarez, but that's it. All right, there's some positives here. I think maybe the biggest positive, folks, and I know this isn't going to sit well with some, Eury Perez is fantastic. That's a special talent. 6'8", all those limbs coming at you with 98-mile-per-hour heat and a devastating curveball, a quality change. He's got a chance to be special, folks, and he already is. He already is. That's one of the best pitching performances I've seen against the Mariners this year. Look, I have some issues with some Mariner stuff that we'll talk about, but I'm going to give credit to Eury Perez too. That's a future ace, folks. That guy's got a chance to be a really good one for a long time, and he pitched really well. Other positives, look, Luis Castillo. Which one do I want to talk about first? So I want to talk about how bad the umpiring was again. Luis Castillo overcame both bad command and also bad umpiring to limit the Marlins to 2 runs. It was certainly not helped by another abhorrent performance by an umpire. But he didn't have his best control. He was missing his spots for sure. Now, some of those missed spots were strikes, and some of them weren't. But the fact that he was able to walk 6 and only limit the Marlins to 2 runs, and one of them being a solo home run from a guy who has some of the best power in all of baseball, is pretty impressive. Pretty darn impressive. Hard to complain too much about that. Other positives offensively, no. Cal Raleigh, big dumper, swinging the bat a lot better lately in these last couple of games anyway. 2 for 4 with a double. Teoscar gets a double. And we'll talk about Eugenio Suarez. Believe me, we will. Matt Brash with a couple of strikeouts. Andre Munoz. I liked the bullpen usage today. Especially knowing you have an off day. Using those guys in those situations, I thought made a lot of sense. Paul Sewald usage maybe had a little more to do with the fact that he hadn't worked in a little bit. But I like that usage. I just barely turned that alarm off. You might have heard the semblance of it, but I got it, baby. There's some negatives here too. Oh, there's some negatives. Julio was far too aggressive tonight. I think that's my biggest overall negative here is that the Mariners did not put themselves into a great position with their aggressiveness tonight. I want to make that young guy work. And it's been one of the strengths of the team. Now, look, again, credit to Perez. He threw so many strikes that, they weren't able to get the starter out in early like they have for this last week or so. But too many attacks of first pitches and on not great pitches either. I don't mind when you swing at the first pitch when it's it's in the middle or something that you think you can drive. Go for it. Sometimes that's the best pitch. But when you swing at the first pitch and you don't have success multiple times, that's problematic. That is problematic and really hurt them tonight. Really hurt them tonight. Yeah, so the top of the lineup does not do the job. And the middle doesn't do its job. So let's talk about Suarez because here's one of my biggest negatives is this fan base needs to some people in this fan base, not all fan base. Eugenio Suarez was robbed of a couple homers tonight, and the Marlins robbed 3. At least 2, one that would have hit the wall. But people blaming Suarez for that as if it's just that easy to hit the ball just a little bit further. Folks, come on. Come on. I know you're frustrated. I know you're frustrated that a guy who was among the league leaders in homers last year is only slugging .331. I'm frustrated too. But getting mad at him when a couple of balls get robbed for homers is silly. And it's what makes people say silly things about this fan base sometimes. I get it. I get it. It is frustrating. It would have been nice if Luis Suarez would have hit the ball just a couple feet further. But both of those balls should have left the park, especially for those of you who didn't watch. Bottom of the 9th, 1 out, bases loaded. Suarez takes a pitch off the plate from AJ Puck, drives it into right center field, and Jesus Sanchez times it perfectly. And instead of a grand slam, it becomes that sac fly. That's, I mean, what do you do? What you don't do is say, boys, I wish Suarez would have hit that ball. Well, you could say, I wish Suarez hit that ball a little further. That's fine. But you can't say he should have hit the ball a little further. Baseball's hard. Blaming Suarez for that is insane. You can say it's a continuation of what's been going on with him, I guess. But that's silly. You have to credit the other team sometimes. The Marlins are a 7-game over 7 games, 7 games over 500 for a good reason. They've played quality defense. They have good pitching. They've got some timely hitting. Didn't show up for the first 2 games whatsoever. But it showed up tonight or yesterday. I'm recording this at 9:26 a.m. my time. And I'm still very tired, by the way. But don't blame Suarez for that. Come on. Give credit to the Marlins. Give credit to Suarez for hitting the ball. And he's hit the ball hard for the majority of this last couple of weeks. Lots of hard contact. But getting mad at him because a couple of Marlins players were able to make fantastic catches is silly. That's silly. He wasn't the only one who, I mean, he's not been the only one who struggles over this season. We know that. Jared Kelenic had a rough offensive game. Didn't mean to sound like a puppy there. Mike Ford struggled. As Pollock is, I don't know. I don't know what else to say. Jose Caballero struggled. Mike Ford struggled. Julio struggled. J.P. Crawford struggled. It was a bad offensive effort with good pitching leading to some of it, and some of it too because just guys were a little too aggressive, and some of it because the Marlins robbed at least 2 homers, maybe 3 2 homers and a double. At least 10 extra bases, 10 bases taken away, maybe 12. And all I can really say is thank goodness you won those first 2. Thank goodness you won those first 2, because if we're talking about this loss being what keeps them from picking up the series win, oh man, that would be frustrating. That would be extremely, extremely frustrating. I think I read that the Mariners have scored something like 18 runs for Luis Castillo in like his last 7 starts. Come on. I know you need to score fewer runs for Luis Castillo than, say, Brian Wu or Marco Gonzalez or someone like that. But give him a little support, folks. Come on. Ugh. So tomorrow we have Brian Wu against Michael Kopech. Kopech's pitched really well. It's a tough series. Not so much in terms of the White Sox, because the White Sox aren't good. Not at all. Nobody in the AL Central is all that good. But I'm not sure you win one pitching matchup, I think. Well, maybe 2. Lance Lynn's been pretty awful. I just can't forget that. The good version of Lance Lynn that we've seen for the better part of this decade. But Wu versus Kopech, advantage White Sox. Also, games on Apple TV. Ugh. And then another off day after Sunday. Man, tons of off days lately. They must just be like a lot of games in the second half of the season, because this is as many off days as I can remember the Mariners having in the month of June. I don't like it. I mean, look, the players probably like it. It's nice for them to have off days, but I like to watch them play every day. And of course, I'm selfish and I feel bad for Grandma because she won't have the game to watch today and she won't be able to watch Friday. And that's a bummer. Yeah, that was a frustrating loss, even after getting those couple of blowout victories and, being in the game for the overwhelming majority of it. But I was ready to hoot and holler when Suarez hit that ball and Jesus Sanchez had other plans. By the way, Jesus Sanchez is a delight. That guy is so you see how happy he is when things are good, and you see how much he cares when things are going bad. That guy is a delight. Pretty good player too. Pretty good player, man. It's another thing real quick is Jorge Soler would be a target of mine if the Marlins fall out of this thing for sure. Somebody I really wanted him to take a look at last year. Got a lot of negative feedback. What can you do? Follow me on Twitter at Crawford_MILB. That's what you can do. And follow the Sports Sometimes podcast and follow the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball podcast, because, that makes up for it. You insulting me for saying the Mariners should get Jorge Soler can be made up by you subscribing to my stuff. And please hit like and please hit subscribe on these videos, folks. It's been an absolute pleasure doing these. We've got 95 to go for the rest of the year. Can we do it? Yes, we can. But I sure would appreciate your support while I'm doing it. It'd be nice to make a little bit of money while I wax poetically about the second half of the season. But yeah, frustrating loss. But don't blame Eugenio Suarez for this one, folks. That is crazy fun. That's crazy talk.